Slutty, what's going? Hey man, they got fatal police mistake causes deadly shootout. Oh, we getting it, bitch. Make sure you subscribe right now. Ain't gonna do too much talking, let you get into it. Amy.
On November the 25th, 2025, a SWAT team surrounded a semi-truck in a warehouse parking lot just south of Indianapolis. Inside was a man wanted in connection to a murder, and officers threw everything they had at the truck trying to take him alive.
Exercise open. Come on!
Then, shots rang out, and it ultimately ended with a man dead on a stretcher.
Tonight at 11, police tell us they shot and killed a wanted semi-truck driver in Franklin after IMPD says he did not comply with orders to surrender.
This is the story of how a deadly standoff in Franklin, Indiana ended in the death of a self-proclaimed gangster. At 3:56 in the morning on Saturday, November the 22nd, 2025, a woman called Indianapolis police from a home on the 1700 block of James Run Way on the city's southeast side. Inside the house, officers found her husband, 64-year-old Jeffrey Finkel, shot to death inside his own home.
We got someone on the inside of the house. He's laying down all bloody. We're about to go through the back door.
This is most likely going to be a homicide response. Can you go citywide for a Chinese translator?
The neighbor would later say that she had heard 2 gunshots that morning, a couple of minutes apart. Finkel was a father and a pharmaceutical delivery driver who'd lived in the neighborhood for years, a warm, friendly man by his sister's account, who had also just become a newlywed to his wife, who had just arrived from China only 2 weeks earlier. And when police flooded the scene that morning, she spoke so little English that she needed a translator just to explain what happened. In the hours before the killing, home security cameras had captured something strange. A suspicious man was seen roaming in the street in the dark for nearly an hour, slashing tires on parked cars, and even pouring liquid into one vehicle's gas tank to ruin the engine, before eventually slipping behind a house next door to Finkel's.
Just up the street, someone flattened the tires on this car about a half hour before Finkel was killed. And there's someone, you can see him in the shadows, moving from vehicle to vehicle. There were more flattened tires in the driveway. And then after that, he trips the headlights on a parked truck, and then he slips around the backside of the house next door to Finkel.
Days later, investigators identified the man they believed was behind that vandalism as 37-year-old Robert Bido, an over-the-road trucker named as a person of interest in the homicide. And at this point, Bido was already known to police. As homicide detectives closed in, separate arrest warrants were issued against him on an unrelated case from 2024. According to the probable cause affidavit, Bido had held a gun to his then-wife's head and told her that he was going to kill her.
Newly unsealed court documents lay out disturbing allegations. Police say Bido pulled a gun on his then-wife and threatened to kill her in front of several children in the home.
Then, when officers arrived to arrest him, he jumped out of a second-story window and ran. During that case, his ex-wife had told officers something that would matter now. Bido kept a shotgun in his semi-truck. Tuesday, November the 25th, just after 1:30 in the afternoon, detectives would track Bido to a semi parked in the 1200 block of Mitsubishi Parkway, the Ryder Logistics lot in Franklin, just off of Interstate 65. They would surround the truck, and as officers approached, Bido shut the driver's side door, prompting a SWAT officer to throw a flashbang. Over a public address system, police would ask him to surrender and step out of the truck, but he refused. Officers would then try everything short of lethal force, including firing less lethal super sock beanbag rounds to break out the windows.
Exercise open.
They would also toss a CS gas canister into the cab, which Bido threw back out.
Hey, hold the back up so we can throw this in. Get in the back, guys. Get in the back. We're going to throw clear out in. Hold up, we're going to throw a clear out in. Back up. Straight up, Danny. Yeah,
Then a Franklin K9 officer, positioned farther back from the truck, suddenly started shouting that he could see Beto holding a shotgun. Moments after the warning, Beto tried to exit through a passenger door while pointing the shotgun out of the window. Prompting 3 SWAT officers to open fire, firing about 25 rounds in total. When the gunfire finally settled, officers and a SWAT medic would move in, giving Beto medical aid on the scene until paramedics arrived. He was rushed to a hospital in critical condition, where he was later pronounced dead.
Police say Beto didn't comply with orders, and after multiple attempts to de-escalate, he was shot and later died at a hospital.
Thankfully, no officers and no bystanders were injured in the incident, and when investigators recovered the shotgun from the cab, they actually found that it was unloaded. However, officers who had been surrounding that truck facing a man pointing a shotgun at them really had no way of knowing it was empty until it was too late. Indiana State Police ultimately took over the investigation. On April the 13th, 2026, Johnson County prosecutor Lance Hammer ruled the shooting was legally justified, saying that officers had exhausted every available non-lethal option over a prolonged period before anyone even fired a shot. The investigation also showed that while he was surrounded, Beto had been on the phone telling the person on the other end that the police had him in a homicide. When they offered to get him a lawyer, Beto brushed it off, saying that he wanted to go out like a G, slang for dying like a gangster. As for what drove him to that homicide in the first place, Beto's ex-wife offered the only real answer anyone has. She said he'd become convinced that Finkel was too close to her, an allegation that she had flatly denied. But despite her denial, Finkel was still shot dead in his home just days later. And as for the charges that started this whole manhunt, they were dismissed. As it turns out, it's technically impossible to prosecute a man who's already dead.
Damn, that shit crazy. Anyway, y'all like, comment, and subscribe. You big.